there is need for us as a nation to distinguish between governance and devolution. The governor is not devolution. The governor is a person. You know? Devolution is about the people. It is not about the governor. And we can deal with the governor without disrupting devolution, if there is need to. But what is sacrosanct, what is constitutional, is that we must get local people, development, to be at a local level as much as is practically possible. I agree with the Right Honorable Raila Odinga, because I was in Parliament when NGCDF was passed. And the principle was right, because there wasn't any meaningful resources getting to the grassroots. And the big push for devolution in the constitution-making process was 3 principles: making sure that resources get to the grassroots, making sure that there is representation at the grassroots, and making sure that accountability is also at the grassroots. I want to commend both the Right Honorable Raila Odinga and the ODM party, my former party, for standing up to be counted when the country needed leaders to stand up for Kenya. It may have been easy to do the opposite. It may have been popular to do the opposite. I know many people have vilified the Honorable Raila Odinga and the ODM party for the decision they took to stand for Kenya when there was need to do so. The 10-point agenda that we have signed buttresses what is actually in our manifestos. The NADCO report, we all know what it is supposed to achieve. And if we stand together, we can achieve all the legislation that is recommended by the NADCO report. Parliament has what it takes, to do this. For Kenya, we can do it. And I want to persuade this PG to work with us and for all of us to be committed to this exercise. If it was not for the broad-based, for example, we wouldn't have had the kind of change that is required in our sugar sector. And I want to tell you, watch this space. In just 2 or maximum 3 years, Kenya will be a net exporter of sugar. Just 2 or 3 years. This country, which perennially we have been looking for safeguards from COMESA. Every year, we are looking for safeguards from COMESA. We are spending public money to go and pay for sugar, to go and pay for farmers, to go and pay for workers who don't work for government, just because we couldn't bite the bullet and tell the crooks there to get out. Now we have told them to leave. And I want to promise you, I want you to hold me to it. We are going to change the sugar sector. We are going to change the coffee sector. You have already seen what is going on in coffee. There is still a little bit of pushback, but we will deal with it. Out of the 5 people who have become presidents in Kenya, I am one of them. I don't take it for granted, and I don't take it lightly that God has given me an opportunity to be one of the 5 Kenyans who have had the opportunity to lead this country. And I must say this, to us as leaders that a nation, the progress, the destiny of a nation is decided by leaders. As to whether we are going to be a progressive nation or we are going to be a failed state is going to be determined by leaders, by us, the people who are sitting here. Singapore and Kenya were the same countries 60 years ago. Malaysia and Kenya were the same 60 years ago. But today, we play in different leagues. They have managed to progress to the first world. We are still where we are. The difference between what Singapore has become and what we are is leadership. And that is the place, ladies and gentlemen, we occupy today. So that you understand the importance, the sacred position you hold as a leader. We have a historic opportunity to unleash the full potential of Kenya. We all believe, I do, that Kenya is a very great country. This country of ours. There is absolutely no reason why Kenya is not like Singapore. We have what it takes. Let me repeat. We have what it takes to measure up to the countries in the first world. Yes, we do. Yes, we do. But we are playing in the wrong league. Because leadership, me and you, are refusing to stand up to what this country needs. I really want to persuade you guys. I really want to persuade you friends. Yeah? This is not about William Ruto. I am here today, I will not be there tomorrow. This is not about Raila Odinga. Right? It's about the country called Kenya, where today we have the privilege to be the leaders, to be the decision makers, to decide which way Kenya. It is us who are seated here. You know, there are legitimate concerns on how resources are being spent at the counties. There is. We cannot also run away. There is legitimate concern. Let me ask, for example, the latest Sokohuru in the Senate. Because you have to accept, you know, by virtue of the position I hold today, I am a consumer of raw intelligence. I know what's going on. Where does somebody find 150 million? Where? Huh? Is that his money? That is money that belongs to the county. Yes. Is that correct or not correct? Yes. We agreed that we must have a conversation on national debt because it has the potential to threaten our development. It is the reason why my good friend Buddy and I have been in many different places. And we have done the most that we could to contain the issue of debt. We have gone out of our way to look for alternative sources of funding so that we don't always go to borrow. We have gone the route of securitization. We've gone the route of private-public partnerships. You know very well that we will be starting the construction of the road all the way to Mau Summit from here, Ironi. We are not going to be spending any debt money from government. The road is going to be built on private-public partnership. You know very well that we are going to begin the railway going all the way from Naivasha to Kisumu all the way to Malaba. We are not going to be spending money from debt like we did with the first section of the railway. We are going to be using public-private partnership to do that road. And many others that we have, we are thinking outside the box so that we can craft alternative mechanisms of delivering on public infrastructure or public goods without necessarily endangering the country with national debt. So we are working at it. It is part of the recommendation of the 10-point agenda that we must deal with. And we are seized with that matter. We will be giving, Mbadi and company will be giving a report to Zani's committee on what practical steps are we making to respond to the issues in the 10-point agenda. What are we doing about the young people? We will be able to tell Zani and the PG should be there to monitor what we are doing. The difficulties that I face today as a president in Kenya are self-imposed. You know, I imposed on myself all these difficulties. Implementing the new funding model, implementing SHA, implementing housing, doing all those things. If I hadn't done any of those, I would be a very popular person, but the country would not have moved anywhere. I am confident that if Raila had become president, he would be doing what I'm doing. Yes. He would be implementing SHA. He would be implementing housing. He would be doing reform in the education. He would be doing reform in agriculture. I know that for a fact because I have been in his school of leadership. That's the correct position. And he would be as unpopular or as he'd be having the same difficulties that I have today. But these are necessary for Kenya to change. Friends, we cannot change the country otherwise. And that is why he has the courage to stand here and tell you, let us stop the extortion. Yes. Very few leaders can stand here and tell you to stop the extortion that is going on in Parliament. I'm telling you the truth. Very few leaders. Because we like making peace with mediocrity. I said we have a historic opportunity. It is not always that protagonists come together to look at the greater interests of the country. But God has given us this opportunity. And I must commend Baba here. Because very few leaders have the courage and the mettle to withstand criticism and stand for the nation. Very few people. Very few people. Many people look for what is convenient, what is popular, even if it is wrong, and they want to pander to it. But when a nation's destiny is at stake, you need statesmen, you need people who have the courage to put Kenya first and everything else secondary. I must commend the members of National Assembly and Senate because you took the courage and passed the bills that today is beginning to solve the problem of health in Kenya. It may not happen instantly, but all of you can now see that there is a possibility that we can sort out the challenge of health and health delivery in Kenya. But because we had to be bold, we had to be bold and make the necessary decisions. Today, we are dealing with the crooked hospitals and health professionals who still want to steal from SHA and to steal from our health provision. And we will go after them and we will deal with them.
As leaders, we are supposed to scan the horizon, spot the danger, and act to subvert that danger. In 2024, the last year, we understood that the dark clouds that were gathering over Kenya could have been exciting, but they could also mark the end of Kenya. We decided that it is better to have an imperfect country that is struggling to mend its ways than to have a collapsed one. We came together to create an environment in which we can discuss our issues and differences as people of one nation. As you know, and as you know here, there are countries that cannot discuss their issues at home. In my life, I've attended many meetings in London, Paris, Istanbul, Washington, name it, where African leaders are ferried to foreign capitals from their own collapsing countries to discuss issues they cannot discuss at home. We go together to spare Kenyan that shame. Our object was and remains as one US senator called it, our country, our whole country, and nothing but our country. Having stabilized the nation, how have we performed in the intervening periods? How do we do better? How do we move forward in a way that respects the people of Kenya and that shows that we are alive to the circumstances that triggered our coming together and that we are acting on them? We said that we give clear, responsibilities. The executive, the legislature, and the judiciary. And the legislature is supposed to make laws that the executive uses to run the country. And the judiciary is then there to ensure that in implementation of these laws, the executive is not overreaching or violating the law of the Constitution. But then, so the work of Parliament is representation, legislation, and oversight. Very clear, it's written there in the Constitution. Parliament is not supposed to be implementing. Parliament is supposed to be oversighting. It's not oversighting. And secondly, there is only two levels of devolution. There's, national and one level, county. Constituency is not an element of devolution. Devolution remains at the county. Down there, the constituency, the county government does implementation of the projects. I'm saying, correct. Down at the constituency, it's the county government. By the national government is supposed to do national projects, and we go down there. And there are functions which are clearly been assigned. Functions which have been clearly been assigned to the national government. I will tell you, your legislatures, and a very famous English politician said that I may not agree with what you have to say, but I shall not defend unto death your right to say it. So listen to me. Let me say it. And then you'll have a chance to come and respond.
Bipartisan efforts to heavy lift the serious national issues. You've seen them in the 10-point agenda. The fight against corruption, the fight against ethnic bias, the fight against all these vices. Without bipartisan efforts, no single side can be able to ever lift these national issues. So let us not underestimate what the leadership of the UDA through President Ruto, the leadership of ODM through His Excellency Raila Odinga has helped us to achieve as a nation. Because none of us alone would have enough political largesse to be able to even lift on some of the issues we are discussing here today. So we are in good space, and for that we must celebrate and acknowledge the visionary leadership of President William Ruto and the visionary leadership and statesmanship of our elder brother, the Honorable Raila Odinga. Going forward, those of us who are younger politicians, we should pick lessons from these two leaders, because there's a lot of excitement by many people who are in the political space, and they think leading the country or managing the country's affairs is a small issue. And some of the characters running up and down around, if they are given this nation to manage even for a day, the country will sink, because they don't have enough wisdom and enough foresight to be able to manage the complex society that is Kenya. So Prime Minister, we appreciate your leadership, your vision, and you've been able to show us, those of us who are younger politicians, that elections and politics should not undermine the collective interest, stability, and progress of our nation. You have helped us understand that individual ambitions to become whatever we want to become should not stand between us and our country's stability, progress, and sustainability. I am happy to see again many political parties whose leadership is here, but although the NADCO and the 10-point agenda was introduced by the two largest parties, UDA and ODM, we have other allies who have joined us from both sides. And what this means is that the country is generally and gradually forming the national consensus that we are looking for. And therefore, for me, the lesson I pick, even looking at the leadership that has spoken here, Stewart Matzayo from Kilifi, Owen Baya from Kilifi, Junaid Mohammed from Migori, Migori and other places, and myself. Those who have felt that perhaps they need space to show their leadership skills, yet they feel their background, their religion, their ethnicity disadvantages them. What the two large parties have shown us, UDA and ODM, under President Ruto and His Excellency Raila Odinga, is that those who have felt to be in the periphery, your stakes and your interests are better catered in large national parties. it is possible in a large national party to realize your dream, your potential, and your skills to be tapped than otherwise. And therefore, going forward, as we form coalitions and build our respective parties, let us look towards building national parties as opposed to sectarian parties, because that is where the future of a nation is best assured.
This is a very important gathering. Last week, both you and the Prime Minister and even the Deputy President spent time with the governors at the Devolution conference. And there are certain things that you said, which as members of Parliament, we felt that you're keeping not very good company for too long. And members were saying, when will we meet the President and the Prime Minister? So that they also appreciate things from our perspective as members of Parliament. So we hope today you'll also say something about governors after listening from the perspective of members of Parliament. Because there are certain things that you said, Prime Minister, which if you stop, then it is as good as telling us to go hard goods as senators. But it will be good to listen to your wisdom, because I know you have been around as a leadership for too long, and it was not for lack of useful things to say that you said the things you say. So we want you to persuade us, Your Excellency, so that we get to understand what is it that you feel we are not doing right as Parliament.
Senators, if they do not oversight governors, and I see the presence of Simba Arati, it is a known fact, Your Excellencies, that there will be no oversight, meaningful oversight from the county assemblies. And Senate has a role, a constitutional role, to oversight the counties. And I did hear the Prime Minister explain how we got to where we are as we worked on the 2010 coalition. But Your Excellencies, this is the constitution that we have. And we have all sworn that we shall abide by that constitution. That constitution gives Senate that mandate to oversight governors. Therefore, we will wait to hear from His Excellency the Prime Minister his thoughts, and we share and agree either to disagree or agree to agree. And Your Excellency, also on NGCDF, these members of Parliament, just like Senator Aaron Cheruiyot has said, they would have no job if they can't oversight governors. These members of Parliament do not run or manage NGCDF, but they offer meaningful oversight on the implementation of projects at the constituency level. Part of our 10-point agenda, Your Excellency, was on strengthening of devolution. And I am a firm believer that we can strengthen devolution without necessarily doing away with NGCDF. NGCDF has been critical in the development of our country and supplements what devolution is doing, and is not in any way in competition with our governors in devolution, Your Excellency.
So we want a strong UDA party. We want an ODM strong party, so that they can help in governing the country in the correct manner that we all desire. Your Excellency, you have agreed with my party leader on certain issues, the MOUs about the 10-point agenda, compensation of the victims, and other things. Your Excellency, I don't see any reason why anybody in this country will oppose those kind of proposals. Because if you look at the 10-point agenda, there is nothing personal to my party leader and personal to you, Your Excellency. It is things that are of concern to the people. I am used to addressing ODM-PG, but now I can see faces here that we only meet on the floor of the House, and we discuss things depending on where I see things from. But now it looks like the world has moved very fast, like the AI, and now we are seated here discussing parliamentary. Your Excellency, first I want to thank you and my party leader for standing up to the occasion and looking at the bigger interest and the bigger agenda of the country. Your Excellency, you know, in mature democracies, where we normally borrow from, in the US, where we borrowed this system of governance of the presidential system, bipartisan engagement is what drives that country. People, when they have national agenda, they come together irrespective of which party you belong to. But here in Kenya, bipartisan means that it's something that's unacceptable. We are here together as parties to discuss the national interest of the country. We are here as parties to discuss what is important for the country and the people of Kenya. Parliament, Your Excellency, the Constitution says, discusses matters of concern to the people. The parliamentary group today also is discussing matters of concern to the people. So, Your Excellency, we will not hesitate if we are called upon to engage, to discuss issues of national concern to the people.
Nataka kutoa shukrani sana kwa Mwenyezi Mungu kwa sababu ya huu mkutano wetu ambao tuko nao hivi leo. Ni mkutano muhimu kwa sababu tunaweza kujumuika sote wa pande mbili ama pande tatu katika Jamhuri yetu ya Kenya kutoka sehemu mbalimbali za kisiasa, ili kuweza kuona ya kwamba nchi yetu imekuwa na msimamo kamili wa kisiasa. Mimi nataka kuwashukuru sana viongozi hawa wetu wawili, Rais wetu wa Jamhuri ya Kenya na vile vile Baba Raila Odinga, kwa mipangilio yao waliofanya ili sote sisi tuweze kujumuika hapa hivi leo. Maneno yote ambayo tutakaozungumza na tutakayoelewana nayo, na imani ya kwamba tutayatekeleza vile vilivyo.
So the first point that we take away as this committee is that we have to go beyond, because we've looked at the legislative agenda, but we need to look at the other issues in the NADCO report that were not handled in the legislative agenda and try to find ways of looking for other forms of policies and reforms that will be critical for that. And it's very interesting because even in the public participation for the NADCO process, there were very many people saying different things and very, very good recommendations. We need to pick on those recommendations as a committee, because we need to hear the voices of what the Kenyans are talking about and try to find a way to craft these, either as policies or as legislation or as specific ideas that can be put forward. And in all this, building the dialogue and consensus that is very, very key. So we look at legal reforms, and we will expand in this committee to look at institutional and administrative reforms. We look at policy reforms. We look at other constitutional reforms, but more specifically for this committee. And we must be cognizant that the 10-point agenda, starting with the NADCO report itself, is followed by another 9 points. There's always a cross-cutting theme between the 9 points and also the NADCO report. So we must be very cognizant to ensure that even the rest of the point agenda, makes it 9 points that are there, have also been taken into consideration at any time of the process.